So welcome back to another exciting episode. So today I want to dive into a topic that's on everyone's mind, the upcoming US election and what they could mean for India. Who do you think would be the best bet for India's future, Trump or Harris?
If you had asked me a year ago, I would probably say that since Modi and Trump enjoy a great personal rapport, and the fact that under Trump, the India-US relations reaching a new heights and several things happening, which mutually benefited, and the fact that America's recognition of India as an important strategic partner, both in business sense as well as in defense sense, gained a lot of strength. And even today, though there has not been much big policy change since President Biden took over, because it must be said to Biden administration's credit also, that momentum that started with Trump's first term, that went forward because of the strategic reasons. The fact that today America sees that India is an important player in the policy called the China Plus, that you need to look at another country which will gradually become an alternative place for investment, for manufacturing, which also offers a similar competitive lower labor costs. But today, the labor cost in China has gone up substantially. Consequently, American companies have reasons to look at India as an alternative. And already you are seeing how Apple has come in a big way. There are other American companies are looking at manufacturing here. And, all those plans we have had, or plans that were announced during several, bilateral meetings between Prime Minister Modi and President Biden, these are all carried forward. So, in effect, if you see, Modi administration has learned, rather gained enough experience to work with both Trump as well as with President Biden. And obviously, that means they have the enough, I would say, capability to handle Kamala Harris as president also. There is not going to be any big problem as such. But there are certain things which I will say on the political side, which may have little bearing. But I expect President Kamala Harris, if she's elected as president, that she would also be very practical when it comes to the kind of things that she would expect from India as America's business and strategic partner. I don't see any big change there, because Kamala Harris is, like, say, you have already seen in the matter of Palestinian issue. In fact, there is a lot of criticism from the Wokes, only because she is not towing their line, which is to condemn Israel totally. Because Israel, again, is a very important strategic partner of America. They cannot dump. No party, whether Democratic Party or Republican, nobody can dump Israel. So you can see if Kamala Harris can manage herself and do that tightrope walking when it comes to Palestinian issue, and receiving a lot of flack from her core supporters. So therefore, when it comes to India, there may be political pressure on her to take up issues like, cause of the minorities in India, or the cause of as if freedom is in danger in India. Those are the things which the opposition in India would expect a Kamala Harris administration to push forward and put Prime Minister Modi in a soup. But I don't think she'll be doing that, because now the Indian-American relations has reached a spot where they have to fully concentrate. But when it comes to Trump, since Trump's approach is very business-like, one thing you can see is more anti-China than Kamala Harris. And so what can happen is this China plus one policy that can gain, further boost. So there will be more encouragement from the Trump administration for US companies to invest in India, to shift more manufacturing units to India. And we have seen how Prime Minister Modi has also been opening up several sectors, announcing several policies. You take, for instance, the agreements that were signed in the last visit to White House, rather it is first visit to White House under President Biden. And India is looking forward for a big tie-up in terms of manufacturing in semiconductors, chip making. And those things, because Americans also see, because of, as I mentioned, about the labor costs being more competitive compared to China. So one can see actually things moving much forward. There are issues like, for instance, Trump has made it very clear that if countries are going to give up dollar, and if they are shifting to their own currency or currency of baskets, like for instance, India and Russia are increasingly dealing with the rupee and ruble. Similarly, the other countries are doing. I mean, there are agreements going on with other countries also. Well, Trump has said that in that case, there would be 100% tariff on any foreign products coming. There will be issues in where Trump will think of America first. But then Modi is committed to India first. So where America first policy and India first policy will meet, which is the place that, yeah. But then it is going to be a mixture, whether it is Kamala Harris or Trump. But India today, under Prime Minister Modi, because of its experience it had with under Republican administration under Trump and a Democratic Party administration under Biden, I think today there is more pragmatic approach. And that pragmatic approach is not just from one side, from both sides. Because, for instance, the way America has understood India's compulsion in continuing to buy oil from Russia, America has never talked of a sanction. In fact, Americans have realized that because you cannot allow India to collapse. If we were to put sanctions on India not to buy that oil, what would happen to Indian economy? What would happen to the inflation rate in India? If you were to cause damage to India, that would only benefit the common rival, that is China, which America cannot afford. Of course, India also buys American oil. India buys Alaska oil. Therefore, I see, if it is Trump again, I think the personal rapport between Trump and Modi would again play a big part. There are several irritants will be there. I'm not saying irritants won't be there. But Trump's approach is more business-like. It's not ideologically driven. Therefore, it will give a much big push. But when it comes to Kamala Harris, I think things will be more in a level-headed approach. In the sense, Trump is known for his reactions, which can, for impulsive decisions, which sometimes, or even during his previous time also, there were problems for India. But in the Kamala Harris case, I think things would be more thought out. They would also allow India to look at the options. So that is how, the challenges are there with every administrative change in America. But at the same time, India has also reached a point where that it realizes its own importance and it knows America realizes its importance.
Sir, but then there's also this other question of Harris. She has Indian background. Her mother is from Tamil Nadu. Do you think that will help us in any way?
The fact that Kamala Harris was born to an Indian mother, they may help in the optics. Perhaps I would expect if she were to become president, Prime Minister Modi will extend immediately a quick invitation to visit India. So definitely, though, that will help in the optics. And she will get a fantastic welcome in India, no doubt about it, as President of the United States. That will help in the optics. But Indians also realize, just as they saw in the case of Rishi Sunak, when Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister, born to Indian parents, under Rishi Sunak, we saw the first time Deepavali being celebrated in 10 Downing Street, a practicing Hindu. So it helped in the optics. It also helped in appreciating certain concerns of India. But at the same time, Indians by now realize people may be of our origin, but then they have to look after their country's interests. Similarly, Kamala Harris will have to decide what is core American interest in their dealings with India. So there will be a realistic appreciation. But at the same time, this kind of background does help in optics. And also the fact that Modi managed to develop good equations with Trump, largely because of that bonhomie that you saw, because Modi is also an outgoing, very friendly person. But yes, if Kamala Harris were to come under pressure with those interest groups that back Democratic Party, try to raise an issue of freedom of the religion or so-called narratives that are always created against the Indian government or Prime Minister Modi, if those issues were given too much of an importance, then I think the relations will face some problems. Like you remember President Obama when he came here to India, that was under Prime Minister Modi. And the visit went off very well, but while going, he addressed a town hall meeting where he raised issues about perception that minorities are under attack. Of course, that was not allowed to disturb the the relationship, but the message did not go home well. So similarly, if Kamala Harris, if she realizes the sensitivities of India today, and if she doesn't come under too much of pressure from the core support that Democrat Party gets in the United States, then things should be okay. Or even then, the understanding will be, as a Democratic Party president, Kamala Harris may have to say certain things. And India will also make certain counterpoints. And the matter will be left because the other things on the table, they need to take the trade relations, because today US is the biggest India trading partner. If you look at the memorandum of understanding between Prime Minister Modi and Biden during his last visit in 2023, there were several important areas where things are moving forward now, from space to the chips. So there are several areas, and it's time for business. And I'm sure Kamala Harris would, if she were to get elected, she would want that she would pay more attention to the revival of America's position as an industrial giant. So she would be focusing on that, because that's a legacy, if she can give that legacy. And that will ensure even a second term for her, unless she gets bogged down in all these so-called ideological issues.
There's also this talk, right? The deep state is working against India and its leadership. Who do you think can rein in these forces?
I think Trump would be more clear in his objectives. And I would expect Trump to be more easily convinced by what India has always been saying, to curb the activities of groups, separatist extremist groups, which are using today US, UK and Canada. Trying to encourage Khalistani extremism, which is nothing but an attempt at extorting money. And these groups are involved in other drug trafficking and other things across Europe and other places, and even human trafficking. And I'm sure Trump will understand, that India's concerns in this regard, compared to Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris would be under pressure from those groups. And of course, it is part of American strategy to keep some political pressure up on the countries they deal with. So, like for instance, Indian agencies being accused of trying to liquidate extremist leaders in the US. That is not something new to America, because America is known to have handled those whom it considers enemies. So I do not know what is the role of Indian agencies in such activities, but definitely today, India has been raising the concern that how the soil of America, soil of UK, and because of a misperception, they are not realizing the danger of encouraging those forces. Because the Khalistan movement will not start in India. It will have problems in America, because it is very difficult to revive in India. But definitely there, these groups are, and there are gang wars involving each other there itself, fight for control of Gurudwaras. All that is happening there in Canada as well as in US. But Trump will be more concerned with boosting trade and with other core issues that he has in mind. So therefore, he would not want, that American deep state or American agencies or whatever, as a foreign policy objective, would be constantly creating irritants in the relationship.
So also, Trump is proposing to give green cards to foreign graduates. And Indians are the biggest ever bloc, right, for college education in the US. Do you think something like that will help India in the long run?
Well, because last time when Trump was under his time, there were difficulties in this visa issue, because it was felt that there was restrictions on that H1 visa also, and there was genuinely because Trump wanted make America great again campaign, so that jobs which could be well handled in America itself by Americans themselves should not go overseas, or other people should not take away those jobs. So that concern will again get revived here under Trump. But then what Trump would look at is, like any businessman would look, if things can be better manufactured in India for the American market, why not? At a lower cost. Similarly, if they can get people, talented people, in terms of business proposition, then why not get the people here to do the job? That has been a traditional approach of Americans. That if you can get a thing done at a cost which is lower than what is prevalent in America, by men or by industrial units, either way you look at it. So Trump would purely look at it in terms of, because as he often says, what's the deal? So therefore, I think there will be more demand for, once the American economy picks up under Trump, there will be demand for more high-skilled Indian labor in America, which will give definitely a more spread for our qualified people who have had difficulties in getting visas, maybe that will come. But then that will be one element of India-American relationship. Because at the same time, Modi would also be encouraging American companies to set up shops here in India, which will generate jobs in India. So that will also be there. But what do I see, sir? One, Kamala Harris will be under compulsion to be more business-like in approach, rather than be driven by, as I said earlier, on issues of ideology. That is not going to help her tenure as president. He has to be pragmatic. And Trump, as we know, he'll be more business-like. Because in everything, he is going to look at it, how does it serve his Make America Great Again line? At the same time, how it takes care of America's security interests. Because every country does what suits it. Every country does what it is in the best strategic interest. Where the interests merge, you have a great partnership working. And everybody today realizes, sir, particularly the West realizes, that India remains a very functional democracy. And because of democracy and its huge human potential, the future is India. And the way India has, the Indian economy has seen a resilience. So all those would be a big consideration in Trump's approach towards India. And it will be similar considerations will be at work under Kamala Harris as president also.
Sir, and my last question. Now, we know Modi is coming here, right, for the UN General Assembly. Do you think he will take some time to meet either of the candidates?
Sir, at the moment, I don't think any such meetings are scheduled. Since it's a thick of campaign, both the leaders will be busy. I don't think any meeting has been sought or any meeting has been. Rather, Prime Minister Modi would like to meet whoever gets elected as the next president of the United States and take it forward from there. Rather than, because at this point when they are thick of the campaign, because the Prime Minister Modi's approach would be best wishes for whoever wins the election. And by now they have realized, sir, initially it was always because those misgivings were there when Joe Biden took over as president. But since then, you have seen the kind of interaction, kind of the several rounds of discussions they have had. Both sides have realized that the US realizes the importance of India and US realizes the importance of Modi's leadership of India. US and US companies, US businessmen, they realize what is happening in India under Prime Minister Modi and what kind of opportunities are held out for them. So I expect under Trump, the American businesses would be more active in pursuing possibilities in India. And there would be similar pressure under Kamala Harris to do the same.
Okay, sir. So we still have 50 more days for the election. So we'll keep a close watch on the developments. And that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.